Hello, ninjas. Thank you for joining us. Larry Kendall here. And let me ask you this question. How many of you would like to increase your number of referrals? Well, most of us would, because that's what's the engine that really drives a top producer's business. We are very fortunate today to have somebody who actually wrote the book on generating business referrals without asking. And it's a great pleasure for me to welcome an online friend,
right?
Stacey Brown Randall. Stacey, thank you for joining us.
Oh, it's just so great to meet you in person.
Yeah.
So glad that this worked out.
Yeah.
Like such a nice surprise that we could actually meet in person. But thank you for having me.
Yeah, you bet. We discovered each other because we have similar philosophies of business. And Stacey read Ninja Selling. I read your book. It's a natural fit. We've been friends online, but this is the first time we've had a chance to be together.
I know. It's so great. I mean, I think it's the way of the world now, right? We meet online first, and then we actually meet, hopefully, eventually in person.
The reason Stacey is here in Colorado is because she's here on a speaking engagement. She's not only an author, but she's also a national speaker, a trainer. She has an engagement here in Colorado. And so you let me know you were going to be in Colorado, and here we are.
We are. I know. It's worked out perfectly. And luckily, while Colorado is a large state, I could get anywhere I needed to be for the things we wanted to do quite easily. So.
And you brought your family. Tell us, you've been having some fun while you're here. Tell us about that.
Yes. I brought half the family, is what I think I have to say. I think my daughter would be annoyed if I was like, I brought the family, but she's not with us. So I brought my mom, because we used to live in Boulder.
Okay.
When I was about 7 or 8, we moved to Boulder.
Okay.
And we were here we made it through 3 winters. And then we moved home. We were from, obviously, as you know, South Carolina originally. And so when I told my mom I was coming to Colorado for a speaking engagement, she was like, great, I'm coming. I want to go back and see Boulder. So we went and saw my old elementary school yesterday.
Oh, wow.
The park we used to play in. And so when I decided, okay, I'm bringing my mom, then my husband's like, well, I would really like to go to Red Rocks. It's a bucket list. So, and then my son, Jacob, he's our 15-year-old. I have 3 kids, but Jacob's with us. He's the only one who didn't have a vacation. This summer, he plays pretty much year-round baseball.
Okay.
And so he was like, I guess I'll go. So he was like, I don't have any vacation. So he's with us too. And he's being a real trooper, going to Red Rocks with us, which he loved. And then the Colorado Rockies game. And
wow, you guys, you were going through your list of, you're seeing Colorado. Yeah. And it's great to have the family with you.
In a week.
Yeah, you bet.
Yeah.
Well, we're just grateful that you're here. And I want to go deeper in the book. But before we go there, I'd like to know your background and how did it evolve? And what did you do before? And what was your inspiration then for writing the book?
You know, it's interesting. I always say that I have a portfolio career. There's nothing in my 20s or 30s that would have ever led me to believe that someday I would be sitting here talking about a book that I wrote on referrals. It was like nothing could have been further from what I thought I was going to do. I mean, when I went to college, it was because I wanted to be the next Katie Couric. Like that was the plan. I was going to.
Well, I could see where you could do that.
Thank you. I was going to be a broadcast journalism major. So I majored that in college, and then I decided, no, I don't want to do that. Of course, my parents were like, "What did we just pay for a degree for?" But you know, the communications part of that stayed with me forever. And so really a portfolio career working for like the Charlotte Chamber of Commerce, working for a local magazine. I got into HR a little bit. But I come from a family of entrepreneurs. And so owning my own business was really like, of course, that's what we do. It's not, you're weird at our Thanksgiving table if you have a W-2. So for us, it was like, but then it was like, well, what am I going to do? Like, what am I going to sell? What's my business going to be? And I started a human resource consulting firm. It failed after 4 years. It did not make it to the 5-year mark. So I joined the 85% of all small businesses that fail before they hit the 5-year mark. And I learned a lot of lessons. And one of those lessons was I had to figure out the business development piece that was going to work for me. And I know other people were getting referrals and I wasn't. And I was like, well, my clients love me. So like, what am I doing wrong?
Right.
And that's when I realized that referrals are very, very different from just having a great business and doing great work. And so I went back to corporate America after my first business failed, got the idea for starting my second business actually as a productivity coach. I got certified and I was like, but this business has to be successful. So I did everything I knew to do, right, to build a business. I actually, in my past, worked part-time as a real estate agent. So when I say a portfolio career, I've really done like a lot of different things, but they all serve me for the industries that I work with now. And so when I started my second business, I was like, I'm going to figure this out, throw a bunch of spaghetti on the wall. We'll see what sticks. And I started generating referrals. And in my first year, I got 112 referrals that I didn't ask for.
Wow.
I realized that is what made it different because of all the information and advice and resources out there teach you to ask or pay for those referrals or be really gimmicky. And I was like, oh, this is great. This is working. And then I had clients who I was coaching say, how are you growing? And I was like, oh, I'm getting referrals. They're like, great. Thanks for teaching me how to manage my inbox. I would rather learn your referral strategy. And that's where it all started.
That's where it started.
And so then I had to figure out, oh crap, what do I do? Or like, what am I doing? Like, what am I actually doing to get these referrals? But I'm really good at reverse engineering things. So I started paying attention because I had been paying attention that first year, paying attention to the things that I was doing and what I was saying and what I was not saying. And then I built it into a process and I started teaching it to people. And then eventually the business just evolved from there. I'm going to hit 11 years this fall. In business. And so I guess I was coming up on the 5-year mark of the business and it was just time for a book. I really didn't want to do a podcast. Technology actually scares me. Like I'm always afraid I'm going to hit the wrong button, like break something. So people were like, you should do a podcast. And I was like, oh, anything not to have to do that. So I wrote a book, which I think is harder, as you know, right?
Yeah.
Labor of love and some other things. And so I wrote the book and also launched a podcast in the same year.
What year did you launch the book? When?
2018.
2018. And I remember, I don't know how it came to me, but the minute I read it, I said, this is amazing. And we reached out and connected.
I think you heard me on a podcast.
I did hear you on a podcast.
I don't know if we ever recalled which one when we first connected, but it was probably one of the real estate podcasts.
But I'm sure glad we did. And I feature you and your book in our training, in our Ninja installations. In fact, you have your own slide, which is up behind me.
I love it.
And a little story, I bought a stash of your books. And at our Ninja installations on the front table, there's a series of books that I recommend and talk about. And Stacey's book is one of them, Generating Business Referrals Without Asking. And inevitably, people will come up, pick up that book, they'll start to read it, and they get drawn in. And they'll say, can I borrow this book and bring it back after class? And I go, just take the book.
Right.
And so almost every class, there's several books given away. And so when we got ready for this interview, I went to my stash and I'd given them all away. So I've got another group ordered. But that gives you an idea of how popular your book is with the ninjas. And if you haven't read that book, please put it on your list. If you're serious about generating referrals, she's got the formula for that. So let's talk a little bit about and go a little bit deeper into this idea of generating referrals without asking. One of the principles of Ninja is what we call the pursuer distance or dance. And that the minute you start chasing somebody, they will start to distance from you. And the minute, my experience is if you're at a soccer game and you're walking up and down the sidelines asking the parents, do you know anybody that wants to buy or sell? Do you want to buy or sell? Can you refer me somebody who wants to buy or sell? What are they going to do? They're going to put up the shield or they're going to try to distance. And so that is not the way to generate referrals. And we've known that at Ninja for a long time. Now Stacey comes along, does the research, writes the book, proved it in your own business.
Yes.
And so tell us a little bit about, go a little bit deeper, give the ninjas kind of a quick, I guess, book report, if you would, on how do you generate referrals without asking?
So what I love about the work that I do and the work that you do is that they're all relationship based.
Yes.
Right? When you talk about staying in flow and asking forward questions and things like that, it's about to know the other person. It's to understand the other person. Yet we recognize there's a business at the end of it, right? You guys want to sell homes, right? From that perspective. And so I think from there though, it's when people can like take one step back and be like, you know what I'm building is a relationship based business. And I think from there, that's where all the goodness in our businesses has the opportunity to start with the clients that we're going to bring on board and the referrals we're going to receive. So the philosophy that I teach from is that referrals only come from relationships.
Sounds like Ninja to me.
Right. And you could put a period after that. Yeah. Referrals only come from relationships, except there's a little bit more to it. But what relationships need is ongoing connection. But when it comes to referrals, it being a little bit different from that ongoing connection they need than a client would need, it is that ability to really impact how they feel about you and to like really be like in their mind when those opportunities present themselves, because you only control the desire for someone to refer to you. Like, I mean, you probably know this statistic, but how many real estate agents or realtors are like licensed? Colorado, we
about
do
a
United
million and a
States,
half, you know,
right?
there's a lot of
Do you know how many choices that means people have?
Yeah.
And I love you have this statistic in your book is like people know like about 12 real estate agents at any.
Well, you remember the book. Yeah.
I do. Because, well, sometimes when I'm actually presenting to real estate companies or if I'm actually on a real estate podcast, I always like to like mention those things because I think it kind of makes it more like, oh, right. Remember the stat. I've got so many choices when I want to decide who my real estate agent is going to be. And so from that perspective, if I have a lot of choices, then how am I going to pick you?
Right.
As the realtor that I would choose to refer when a neighbor or a friend or a colleague or a family member needs help. And so the way that we teach referrals is that it is based on referrals come from relationships, but relationships need ongoing connection. But it's different from your prospect flow or from your, like the client flow that you're going to actually stay in with them. This needs to be a little bit more what we call memorable and meaningful because all you're doing, because you're not talking business, you're not sharing real estate stats, you're not doing any of that. What you're doing is you're being memorable and meaningful in that outreach to them so that the reaction that they have and how they feel is like, oh, Larry really cares. Like this isn't just like Larry's looking for business, right? Like, Larry really cares. And then we teach a very specific way that we use the language piece, the referral seed piece that I teach. So it's the outreach that we do that's memorable and meaningful. Usually most folks are doing about 6 to 7 times a year to their existing referral sources, but it's paired with the right language that has them understand that we appreciate them and then also has them thinking about us from a referral perspective.
Memorable and meaningful. You know, Terry Johnson, one of our ninja instructors, she puts it this way. We just need to love on our people.
We need to be a good person.
And be a good person, love on them, make memorable experiences for them, meaningful experiences for them. You mentioned we need to use the right language. Can you give us an example?
Yeah. So, you know, when most of the time when you're on an on-hold message and you hear the same marketing spiel like over and it's like on repeat or whatever, you know, eventually at some point you're either going to probably more than likely tune it out, but maybe you'll remember it later. But more than likely, you just kind of tune out. You're not really paying attention to what they say. Most of the time when I say we need to plant referral seeds, what people think I mean is just always saying, thank you for your referrals. Thank you for your referrals. That's not it at all.
Yeah.
When we talk about the language we want to use, we do want to plant the idea that we value their referrals and we appreciate their referrals, which means the language looks different from someone who's never referred you. And so from that perspective, it is about talking about your business from a referral perspective, but the cadence matters. How often you do it matters. And then if it's direct or indirect referral seed planting that you're doing, the language piece is, I always know when a client of mine is like, oh, they got it. They don't need me anymore. They're about to graduate. It's because they can figure out, they know how to write the formula for the language they want to say themselves. And it's just that idea of it always comes from a place of gratitude. There's always a connection to why am I sending this to you, saying this to you, doing this, and making sure you understand that I appreciate your referrals, but that's not the main part of the message. It's almost sometimes like an add-on. Sometimes it is a direct thanks for your referrals, and sometimes it's not. And so it's not so much like here's the one sentence we use.
Right.
There's a multitude of ways that we use that language, direct and indirect, and when we plant it and when we don't, and the cadence to it behind it. But it really is the things that we're saying when we are building that relationship.
Would you say that when we're creating a memorable experience for them, doing something for them, loving on them, that's a referral seed, what you call a referral seed? As
long as you're actually using the language with that.
Okay.
Yes.
Give me an example of using the language.
You know, so here's the easiest one, I think, and people can like go use this today. This is the best one for them to say, is actually how I teach people to write a thank you card.
Okay.
Most people are going to, if they receive a referral, most people are just going to say, thanks for your referral. There's actually nothing wrong with that.
Right.
Like there's fundamentally nothing wrong with that. But or they'll say, thanks for your support.
Right.
Well, support is a very obtuse word in my world. Right. It could mean a lot of different things. If you're writing it to a client who's also referred you, are you thanking them for being a client? Support is not the right word.
Right.
But I find people use it a lot. And so the way I teach people to write a thank you card is very clearly, we want to make sure we recall to them exactly what they did and what we're thankful for. So it would be, thank you for referring Larry Kendall to me. So I want to make sure that I'm using the name of the person that they referred to me, because then in that minute that the person gets that card and they read it, they're like, oh, that's right. I did refer Larry to Stacey, right? Plants that referral seed. And then we usually have a second line that's like, it's an honor or a privilege to help the people you know and care about, right? While using the people you know, right? That's a little future pacing, what we want them to do, right? The other people that you know, it's always an honor or privilege. And then you can end that card. So it's like 3 sentences. You can end that card with, if I can help you, let me know, or hey, it's been forever, let's catch up for coffee. You can end the card however you want. But the 2 lines I want in there is the thank you for referring, insert the prospect's name. It's an honor to help the people you know and care about. So we're like planting that direct referral seed of what they did. They referred Larry, and indirectly saying it's always an honor to help all the people, right? To help the people you know and care about.
Ninjas, Stacey just gave you a nugget, solid gold, in my opinion. And that's right out of your book. Because I remember, in fact, I've taught that in the classes, and I give you full credit when your slide's up on the screen. And so that's an example of the language, how important it is. Earlier, you made a comment. Sometimes, I see this especially with realtors, they build a tremendous relationship. They're really well liked, but they're not getting the referrals. Why is that, do you think?
It's torture.
It's torture.
I think for any business owner, for your clients to tell you that they love you, to sing your praises, to give you a testimonial or review, and you're like, of course, my clients love me, but then they don't refer. I think that's torture. But the reality of it is, it's because doing great work does not equate someone actually referring you. We all are built with the ability to want to help someone, right? But the problem is helping someone with a referral isn't about you getting a new client. And that's where the disconnect always happens. People think, oh, I ask for referrals because that's how I'll get a new client. But when someone refers you, they're helping someone else who has a problem.
Right.
And they're referring them to you because you can solve the problem. You're just the solution provider in the cast of characters, and you're the least important, at least in the beginning. And so the referral source is really the hero helping someone. So when people are having this amazing client experience with you, right, they're focused on themselves. And what we need them to do is start thinking about the other opportunities that will happen out there. Will they have that opportunity to sing your praises? But if they don't actually understand, right, and if they don't actually understand how to make that connection back to you, those referrals aren't actually going to happen. So we teach it a couple of different ways. And what we always tell folks is sometimes it's just the right people. You'll just get blessed with somebody who comes in to work with you, and then all of a sudden they're like referring you left and right. And you're like, what'd I do? And I'm like, nothing. I mean, other than that, you did great work. That's how they're built. That's a minority of people. They're not unicorns, but that is a minority of people who are built to refer. What we have to pay attention to are hot zones within your business, of where there's the moments that people are more likely to consider referring if the opportunity presents itself, and making sure we have touch points there that are speaking that same referral seed language, but it's repeatable.
What would be an example of a hot zone in real estate?
Okay. So this is one of my favorites. So I teach this thing called an expectation map. I know lots of businesses have different versions of them, but for me, it is when I decide to work with you, I'm going to make a lot of assumptions about what this is going to look like. And if it's the first time I've ever worked with you, I'll make a whole lot more assumptions of what this is supposed to look like. And the best thing you can do to set your clients up for what we call a referable client experience is to show them how it will go, right? Visually represent, here's how the buying process works. And here's all the ways it can go wrong, because it probably will, right? You could find yourself in a multiple offer scenario, right? Or here's how it should look to sell your house. And it's a visual, think like a Candyland board game. That's how I teach my clients to build them. They don't have to be that fancy, but we literally build an expectation map of like, here's where you're starting, and here's where we want you to end. And here's all the things that are probably going to happen and may go wrong. It gives the business owner that opportunity to talk about the things that you probably don't want to talk about, because they're all mapped out when things go wrong. But if you visually make it appealing to me, I'm going to remember it. I'm going to be able to recall it. And when I go crazy as a client thinking, why is this taking so long? Or why have we put in offers 14 houses and we've lost them all? You can remind me, remember we talked about this? It's right here at this point. This is where we are. And it just kind of helps a client reset their expectations. Okay. So that's a touch point that I want my clients. It doesn't matter what type of client they are. They build that from the criminal attorney to the real estate agent to the interior designer. They build out an expectation map. that's part about just having a really good client experience. And then you use it, right, with your clients. The way to turn it into a referral seed moment, though, is in those moments when they're looking at all this, be like, listen, as you're going through this process of buying a home or selling your home, you're probably going to show this to other people when they talk about where are you in the process? Because you're going to give this. It's a printed map, right? Yeah. You can do it electronic, but you really got to do it printed. Like, you're probably going to share this with someone else to kind of have them understand this process that you're going through. So if you need another copy, right, because you're just having to be sharing it with somebody else, please let me know. I can give you as many of these as you need, right? I never said the word referral. I never said you're going to give this to somebody who probably needs to buy a home with me, right? I just kind of put it out there. I use the word future pacing a lot, right? We kind of just future pacing to the idea that you probably will give this map away and you probably will need another copy. And then, of course, your logo is on it and that kind of stuff, right? I mean, it's obviously branded, but it's just an easy way. But the heart of that expectation map is for your client to stay a good client. The additional benefit of that is that you also get to plant a referral seed. We don't do the expectation map to plant the referral seed. We just use that as an opportunity to be able to do it.
Where on the expectation map then would be the hot zones?
So in the expectation map, that's forward facing. So if the client sees it. So there's a lot of things that happen from a business perspective in the back end that the client wouldn't see. So I wouldn't reveal on my expectation map other potential hot zones. But the giving of the expectation map and like, hey, we're starting to work together. This is what this is going to look like. That
whole process is a hot zone.
That's a hot zone. Yeah. Right. And I actually tell folks, I actually use my expectation map. So when clients come to work with me, at least in my 2 higher level programs, my coaching and my VIP, I show that expectation map in the buyer's journey. Like, hey, if you decide to work with me, this is what this is going to look like. And then they get it again, multiple times, actually, once they say yes to working with me. It's just how we manage expectations. Right. It's how we show them how it will go visually. And then also you can leverage that opportunity too.
Let me ask you this, the ninjas, well, first of all, referrals are a huge opportunity. The other number, and I don't know if this is in the book, but in the United States, homeowners know an average of 4 people who will move this year. So if you have a database of 200 households, they potentially know 800 people who would be moving. Now, technically, some of them know the same people, so it's probably not. But the point is, it's abundant, the referrals. If you can figure out, how to earn those referrals and how to plant the referral seeds, et cetera, et cetera. So you're onto something huge here for the ninjas.
I think that it's part of like, as they put in the ninja way, right? It's just and I think this every time I work with I have somebody who's been through ninja that's in one of my coaching programs. I think this every time. I'm like, oh, wait, you're ninja? Okay, let me tell you how we're going to put some things into place here because I already know how they're showing up. I mean, no disrespect to all the realtors out there, but most of the time, not all the time, a lot of times when real estate agents come to work with me, we have to clean up their database. We have to do a lot of you're not even categorizing people the right way. Like, you can't be a referral source if you've never actually referred, unless you're a potential referral source. And not everybody in your database should be a potential referral source because you can't create relationships with that many people at one time in the way you need to get them to put the trust on the line to actually refer you. Yes. And so we do a lot of database cleanup. But anytime that I have a ninja that comes into my program, I'm like, oh, okay, I already know what you're doing and what you're thinking. And here's the areas I want to be able to kind of add a little extra and do little extra things. And I think that it just flows together so nicely from your work to my work, which is nice.
Which is great, which is why we're sitting here.
Yes.
Share with the ninjas a little bit more about, in addition to the book, you have a coaching program, you have a podcast, you have what I call a system, online classes. Share a little bit about what are the resources that you offer.
Yeah, I always tell folks the book is a great place to start. And the second book will be coming out September, fingers crossed, of 2025. I actually have to get the manuscript in on time for that to happen. So the books are always a great place to start. And then my podcast is Roadmap to Referrals. We drop a new episode every Tuesday. Haven't missed a Tuesday in almost 6 years, or maybe it's now 6 years. I don't know. It all runs together. We're over 300 episodes. And so the podcast and the books are great places to start. When people are ready to dive in with me, there's 3 ways to work with me. The first one is I actually have a program. It's an online, it's a self-study course. It's called Your Next 5 Referrals. Okay. It's the things I wish people would have in place before they take the step to actually work with me.
Okay. So The first step is the online 5 steps.
Your next 5 referrals. Yeah.
Your next 5 referrals.
It's like the tracking and the knowing how to write a thank you note and the knowing what to do when a prospect who's been referred to you ghosts you. Like just the basics that I wish people would have in place.
Okay.
Then if you're like, that could be all you need, right? And so there's the Your Next 5 Referrals online course. That moves you into a coaching program. It's a year-long coaching program. It's called Building a Referable Business. Or for some companies that have a small team, they want to move faster than that. And so I have a VIP, it's called Referrals in a Day, where they do an assessment. I build out the referral strategy, pulling from all 19 of my strategies what they need. I package it up as one overall strategy. And then I come spend 2 days with them and I teach it to them and their team. And then they're able to deploy it. And then I'm with them for a year as they deploy that as well. And so it just kind of depends. But I always tell folks, like, there's just some baseline things to get into place when it comes to referrals. And once you have that working, then you're ready usually.
You're making a huge difference in the industry, the business world, with what you're doing. And I just am so honored that we're together here.
Mine.
Yeah, I was going to introduce you as it was one of my great friends, although this is the first time we've met. But I feel like there's a kinship here or an alignment here with our work. And so I'll continue to promote you in every way that I possibly can. Thank you again for joining us. Is there any last final thoughts you have for the ninjas?
Okay. This is the piece of advice I give to everyone, because if you can do this, you will see gold in your business in a way maybe that you haven't before. And so if I could get every ninja to take time to identify who's actually referring them now, like I teach it as a 3-step process to identify who are your referral sources. That may mean they haven't referred you in a couple of years or they just referred you last week. Those list of names, and then having them written down, it's kind of like the hot list, right? Who are your existing referral sources, meaning they have referred you before. If people would just take the time to identify who those names are, who those people are, then you're left with the question, do I believe that I need to take better care of those folks because they take care of my business? And if the answer is yes, right, then at that moment, you're like, okay, now it's time for me to do something different for these people because they refer to me. And just the identification of who refers you, sometimes it can breathe life back into a business because you forget that people trust you because we're just busy off to the next thing on our to-do list. So I think just identify who are your referral sources. Well,
we like to say in Ninja, it matters who says it. And we teach the referral tracking system, which at the end of the year then is a list of all your referral sources. But you just heard it from the person who wrote the book on this. So follow Stacey's advice and do the referral tracking form. Take a look at who your referral sources are. And that's the first step. So, hey, thank you so much for being with us. And
my pleasure.
Welcome to Colorado and enjoy yourself while you're here.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.